Growing up in Breckenridge, there were so many real estate offices. I had this image of realtors as transactional, like car salesmen. I didn't
Yeah.
know what relationship-based business was. I didn't realize the importance of a realtor's role in someone's life at all. So I never even considered real estate. I never ever considered it for myself. It didn't feel like
Yeah.
something that was authentic to me. But honestly, I say that because I couldn't have been more wrong.
Welcome back to the Massive Passive Cashflow Podcast. I'm Gary Wilson, your host, and I'm so glad to have you back listening to the show or watching if that's the case in recorded mode because we're recording it now live. And I know you're not on because I've only got Athena Brownson on with me right now. So, Athena, thank you for joining us. This is going to be a fun podcast. Everybody listening, if you're not driving, get ready to take notes and really pay attention. If you are driving, just listen. You'll get the show notes later. But Athena, welcome to the show, man. I'm so glad to have you on board.
Gary, I couldn't be more grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me. So excited to just share a little bit of life with you. Hopefully, resonate with a few of your listeners because I know your podcast has definitely resonated with me. So happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And you will definitely resonate with people when they hear your stories. For everybody, I just want you I'm not going to spoil it for you. I just want you to know that Athena and I have a lot in common. We're both in real estate, we're different brokerages, but we're both high-minded people. That to us doesn't really matter. What matters is the relationship. What matters to us is you, the listener. So we're going to give you, I call it entertainment education. So get ready. So Athena, if you could, I've done a little bit of reading myself, so I want you to kind of tell people a little bit about your background. What were you
Absolutely.
doing prior to this crazy business of real estate, and what was there an inflection point, or what was the tipping point for you to kind of make that dive in here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I laugh because I look at my 34 years so far, and it's been quite a life. It's had many iterations, so to speak. So
Mhm.
I currently am in Denver, Colorado, where I have had a small real estate team for the last 11 years, but I was born and raised in a little mountain town you may have heard of called Breckenridge. It's
Oh
about an
yeah.
hour and a half west. Yeah, Dumb and Dumber was filmed there. It's not actually
Mhm.
Aspen, just a fun fact for everyone.
Yeah.
And my father was a professional skier and a
Mhm.
real estate developer, and my mom did all of the interior design and really working with the architects for his projects.
Mhm.
Um, Really growing up, I was single-sided on being an athlete, on skiing. Traveled, watching my dad compete all over the world from a very young age. I think he put me on a baby Bjorn speed skiing at like 3 weeks old. I think he'd probably get
Nice.
arrested for that now, but
Mhm.
it definitely put that athletic speed gene into me. And I like to say everything that I know about business and life, honestly, I learned from being an athlete because
Yeah.
I look back at these years. So I went professional in freestyle skiing. So I was one of those crazy
Mhm.
people hitting jumps and spinning and doing the half pipe and
Oh yeah.
X Games, do tours, traveling the globe. When I wasn't hurt, I blew 9 knees during that time, broke a couple of necks, and I finally got to a place where, my doctor looked at me at I was about 24 and he said, Athena, you're going to need a knee replacement by the time you're 30 if you keep this up. And that
Yeah.
really, it made me start to realize that that wasn't going to be my life. And
Yeah.
growing up in Breckenridge, there were so many real estate offices. I had this image of realtors as transactional, like car salesmen. I didn't
Yeah.
know what relationship-based business was. I didn't realize the importance of a realtor's role in someone's life at all. So I never even considered real estate, even though
Yeah.
I grew up on job sites. I was walking job sites and going to choose materials with my mom from the time I could remember, as little as I could remember. Um, but I never ever considered it for myself. It didn't feel like
Yeah.
something that was authentic to me. But honestly, I say that because I couldn't have been more wrong. I finished
Yeah.
college, ended up working at an interior design firm, and
Mhm.
quickly realized that being an athlete, you really learn the principles of resilience and grit and
Mhm.
accountability and showing up. And however much effort you put in, you're going to get out because if you put the time in, you do the reps, you're going to see success. Now, that's not
Yeah.
immediate success. But my coaches instilled very, very important life lessons in me from a very young age of how to show up and how to show up every day just being a little bit better than the day before. And if
Yeah.
you didn't, if you were not paying attention, if you were showing up late, like there were repercussions. There was a level of accountability that I gained from a very young age that honestly, I think you have to have like a little bit of a psychosis to love real estate this much.
Yeah.
And I think I got that from
Mhm.
athletics because I really stumbled into real estate via a dear friend of mine. I was kind of complaining to her at dinner about I just feel like there's a ceiling on how far I can go in interior design. I don't feel, challenged. I don't feel fulfilled. And she said, Athena, what are you doing? You love people, you love homes, you love hustling. Like, why don't you just look at real estate? And I
Right.
sat down with the owner of my first company I worked for. It's just a small local brokerage. I had lunch with the owner about 2 days later.
Hmm.
And that lunch, one of my coaches, business coaches, says to me, you never know the day that you're going to wake up and meet a person that changes your life for the rest of
Hmm.
your life. I look at that day and my interaction with the John Stegner is his name. He still runs the brokerage here in Denver, is amazing mentor of mine. But the conversation that I had with him, he showed me authentically what relationship-based business was. And
Okay.
after an hour and a half of talking to him and learning about the impact that real estate could have on someone's life, about how people can build financial freedom long term, about being involved in one of the top three most important chapters of someone's life.
Hmm.
I mean, I was hooked. I literally quit my job the next day, started real estate school. I
Hmm.
needed a 10th knee surgery, so I got my knee cleaned up, and while I was recovering, I got my real estate license. And scary enough, that was 11 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what's
Oh,
amazing is Colorado. I love the state, by the way. Been out there a number of times. I have the last place I skied in Colorado was in fact Breckenridge, and I've had a great time there. That's where I met the guy who ended up being my MC at some of my live events. I met there at an event, and we went skiing the last day.
no
And I was like, he,
way.
he had an amazing story too. And I love the business, but
Yeah.
tell your dad too. On a
Mhm.
personal note, he'll know. You probably know the story of the Miracle on Ice in 1980 when the American hockey team beat the
Yes.
Russians and it went on to beat the Finns for the gold. I was there at both games. I was at the Olympics, a spectator. I wasn't an Olympian, but I got to go into the locker rooms. We had a pass. They got us in everywhere. I got Mike Eruzioni's one of his sticks. He was the captain. Jimmy Craig was a goalie. I got one of his
Wow.
sticks. Amazing story, and I was there to watch it. I was 17. I appreciate having been there now more than I appreciated
Yeah,
when I was actually there because
absolutely.
I didn't have a concept of the world,
How
dynamics
big
of,
that was.
yeah, politically, economically and socially and everything. It
Wow.
was just an amazing, pivotal turning point. In most sports, sports writers and professionals will point to that to being the number one singular most important sport event in the entire century. And I was there,
I
and I looked
completely
at,
agree. And I
yeah,
believe that was the Olympics that he was in, but I should know this off
yeah,
the top of my head. But yeah,
well,
he speed skied in the Olympics, and I think his
yeah.
record was 129 miles an hour.
That is
So
crazy. Yeah,
yeah, he's
mine.
he's crazy. He also developed most of Breckenridge when it comes to residential real estate. So he
Yeah,
figured it out. He went from being a ski bum to, being a very successful developer. And I
yeah,
think if that doesn't say you can do anything you set your mind to, I don't know what does.
yeah, yeah. Well, of course, Colorado, the state itself, particularly around Denver and the surrounding areas has grown a lot. The first time I was there was probably, good Lord, I don't even remember. It's been a long time now, but I was at another conference and Denver was already very popular, but it didn't really start growing massively until like the last 10 years. I mean, just
Yeah,
spreading out all
it's
over. And
crazy.
yeah, but it is, by the way, I love the other areas of Colorado. Like I was a scoutmaster. I did all the high adventure trips.
Oh,
So
neat.
took my Eagles down to Salida. We did
Yeah.
some whitewater rafting, mountain
Oh,
biking,
yeah.
climbs to 14ers, and just an amazing place. But it's grown an awful lot. You've been blessed to be there during a lot of this growth. So let's go ahead and I appreciate that. So people, everybody listening, um, I'm not saying you have to be an athlete to be great in real estate, but I tell
Mhm.
you what, some of the character traits that Athena brings with her probably have to do with discipline, persistence, setting goals, right? Putting in
Yes.
the work. Guys, you have got to get up in the morning and hit the ground running. This
Yeah.
is not I'm going to take it
Especially
easy.
right now.
Yeah, especially right now. The volume is a 35-year low. So learn from Athena, guys. I'm going to turn it back to Athena. I wish you guys could listen and ask questions like I can because I know you've got a bunch of them. But Athena, let's dive into what are some of your practices that you engage in now in your business? Like, what do you do in the morning when you wake up? How do you prepare
Yeah.
yourself? That kind of stuff, you know? Mhm.
So I have to mention like such a huge part of my life now is that I when I did kind of hit my stride in real estate, around year 3, I felt like I was at the top of the world. I
Mhm.
was diagnosed with Lyme disease, and I really quickly
Wow.
went from being, a very high performing athlete that was had complete control of my body to oftentimes barely being able to get out of bed because I was in so much pain. And it's been a 9-year journey that I'm still on. I get 4 plasma transfusions a month. And I'm
Whoa.
very open about this with my clients, with everyone, because it enables, my team and I to give the best possible experience, but also say, hey, this is my real life, and if I don't have I call it my toolkit. So if I don't have my morning and evening routines, if I don't have these sparks that are going to get me going, then I'm not going to get going because my body and my mind are saying no. And I
Yeah.
truly believe that, my background in athletics have helped, but
Mhm.
honestly, the key to success in any arena, especially in real estate, especially when the market's difficult, like this is a time when it is so easy to want to just kind of take a break and put your hands in the air and say, I'm just going to wait for things to get better. No, this is the time you lean in. You find your routines, you find discipline. And for me, it's keeping it as simple as possible, but being consistent with that. So I have, an Excel spreadsheet that I fill out every week. A coach taught me this years ago, and just like coaching and skiing was so paramount, coaching and mentorship to my business are absolutely crucial. I wouldn't
Mhm.
know anything without them. So I always
Right.
have incredible mentors and coaches, but it basically is an accountability tracker of what am I committing
Mhm.
to do every day. So when I
Mhm.
wake up, am I doing my gratitudes, my affirmations? Am I
Mhm.
reading for a little bit? At nighttime, am I journaling, listening to a meditation, creating my schedule and my must-dos for the next day? Like, what are my top 3 action items? Every quarter, am I doing, I'm leading a quarterly meeting, quarterly offsite for my team where we're in depth going over what our numbers were, what our goals were, both personally and professionally, and where
Yeah.
we succeeded and where we fell short. But I've learned that, if I'm not creating a regimen, if I'm not following
Yeah.
none of this is reinventing the wheel. These are very simple but very profound impact on your business. If I'm not writing handwritten notes, if I'm not meeting people face to face, if I'm not making enough phone calls, then my business is going to suffer. And when you're
Yeah.
in when you're in a market like this where it's pretty difficult, now is the time to lean in relationships. And it's really
Right.
time to figure out what you're made of because
Yeah.
no one's gonna do it for us, unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
Did you know that you can participate in class every Monday? We call it Monday Night Live, 7 p.m. Eastern, with me and dozens of other investor agents from around the country, in fact, the world. Every Monday, totally free. No selling, no recruiting, just straight up education on anything and everything in real estate. And we have a lot of good guests coming on once or twice a month, bringing in expertise on subjects like how to buy a house with crypto. Okay. How about them apples? What about AI? How's AI affecting our business? How about the metaverse, blockchain processing? We're already using it in title work. So come on to Monday Night Live. Be ready to take notes and ask questions because it's live and engaging, and you get to participate by asking questions and meeting others. So we'll see you there. Go to GaryRealEstateWithGaryWilson.com. Click on the resource tab, drop down, and you'll see Monday Night Live. And in there, you can see one of the most recent classes. But more importantly, you can register for class as many as you want going up to like the end of the year, I believe. So in any case, do that. We'll see you on Monday Night Live. Look forward to meeting you in person. Take care.
I agree 100%. And what's interesting is over the years, every now and then I'll come up with I guess a motto or a saying just based on experiences or people I'm speaking with. And one of them that comes to mind now is I learned back when I first got serious about being the best I can be and growing the business, helping as many people as possible, that you have to show up even when you don't feel well. And here, I've
Yes.
had colds and flus like anybody else, but here you've got Lyme disease, and having these plasma replacements as often as you have, you're the living poster child of showing up when you don't feel like it, because that's what champions do. So everybody listening here, this is one you want to write down. Champions win because they show up for practice, just like they show up at a game, even when they don't feel like it. Okay. You
Yes.
know, you have
That's
got to,
beautiful. Thank
yeah,
you for sharing. No,
yeah.
and
And
it's
I really,
true. I can't remember the last time that and that doesn't mean that I always got it right or that that I figured it out immediately. I went through a period of being very angry and kind of mourning the loss of the body I once had that was functional.
yeah,
But you have in the face of adversity, we all have adversity, whether it's health or relational, whether it's with work, whatever it may be, like we all face adversity, unfortunately. But
yeah,
adversity is also the opportunity in our lives to grow. And I don't think you look
absolutely.
back at life and say, oh, I grew so much as a person when everything was going well. You grow when you don't have a choice, when you have to put, you have to dig deep and find that grit. And,
Right.
it's important to give yourself the time and space to figure that out, but you can't let yourself get stuck in the mud. And for me,
Yeah,
that's what it really became was, okay, this is my reality now for a while. I'm stubborn enough
yeah,
that I'll beat this. But,
yeah,
I had to figure out, okay, if I can't get up in the morning, I need to blast my favorite music or blast my favorite podcast and immediately chug caffeine. Like I figured out what my tools are for hey, my body doesn't want to do a thing. So what can I
right.
do to tell my mind that it can override my body? Because that's
Yeah,
really where growth happens and that's where character is built.
yeah. What's amazing is when you're really down against the wall, I mean, like flat out crisis mode, and I wish I could tell everybody that like there's a magic prayer you can say or something like that. And I'm a huge praying person, but
Yeah.
really what it comes down to is taking an assessment of yourself at that moment in time when you might have nothing left. I mean, literally,
Yeah.
materially, you're done. I even had a doctor tell me one time, this like it was like the magic three things happening. It was all personal, business, and
Yep.
physical. I had broken my back in two places, skiing, by
Oh,
the way.
oh,
Yeah,
relatable,
had a
unfortunately.
had a business getting embezzled from me,
Oh,
and a 23-year-old marriage that was breaking up. And in any case, I remember, and I couldn't walk, obviously. I was, they sent me home with the porta potty beside my bed, and they took my
yeah.
driver's license away. In any case, so this doctor he said, "You have no hope." And I'm like, I thought about it later. I can't believe the words came out of his mouth. But you know, I
I've
had
heard
faith.
that more times than I can count.
Yep. But what I realized was I was like, it just occurred to me like that next morning I woke up and went outside, you know what? I'm alive. Here I
Mhm.
am. I was actually standing up at that point. I'm alive. I'm breathing. My mind's working, maybe not as well as others, but I've got a mind, it's working. And all these problems I'm experiencing are my problems. They're nobody else's. I'm
Yeah,
looking around. The birds are singing. The grass is growing. Like the grass doesn't care. The birds don't care. The only person that cared was me. I just decided I'm not going to care anymore about how bad things are. I'm just
that's
going to do whatever it
beautiful.
is I can do in that moment. And I started praying, like, dear God, just give me. I wasn't even praying, give me to the next day. I'm praying,
Yeah.
just give me to the next moment. And I would literally go upstairs and look out my bedroom window, let the sun shine on me, because I
Mhm.
moved my office into that. I was living and working in the same place, and turned that thing around, man, in a matter of months. And that's when,
That's,
but here's the big lesson. That's when the miracles started occurring. I mean, I had a minister, by the way, he's a friend of mine. He ran these 100-mile marathons. I'm like running 10
oh, one
miles
of
at a time.
those.
And he told me, he said, God's going to send somebody across your path at the right time and say the right thing. And it didn't just happen once, it happened multiple times. And the miracles started to occur one after the other because I just decided I can't control the world or anybody else. I can only control me.
Yeah.
I'm going to take responsibility for me and my actions every single moment. And I'm telling you guys, when you make that assessment and come to that realization, you'll find out how powerful and how strong you are. And here's my next saying, which is this. You know, everybody here listening has been through some crisis. And I know they got through it because they're here listening to us. You know you have the ability to rise to the occasion in the worst of times. Why wouldn't you summon that same power inside of you every single day to drive forward and do your best and be your best in spite of the circumstances? That's the lesson I got from what you just told us, you know?
Oh, I just got the chills. Thank you for sharing that because it's true. And the power of perseverance and the mind and prayer and community even in getting through, I couldn't do anything that I do without my team. I've got if I'm too sick one day to show properties to anyone, an investor, a good friend, whatever it may be, like I know that I have people I can rely on. And those are the things that can get you through anything. And I always think, the second that I start feeling better, this is all going to feel so easy because right now every day is the hardest thing you could imagine. So when
Yeah,
things start to feel better, I mean, it's such a gift. Yeah, and it doesn't mean that, it doesn't diminish adversity. Adversity is something that unfortunately plagues all of us at one point in life. It's just part of it,
yeah,
but it is, it is an opportunity to lean in and figure out who you are and what you're made of. And I think a
yeah.
lot of people are facing adversity right now, and it's the time to
Mhm.
come together and to fight forward, and we can really do that. And like
Yeah,
you've already been through the worst days, probably, like think about everything you've
right.
overcome, like you said, and then bring that
Yeah,
energy into everything that you do. I love that.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because going forward, and I don't mean to say I'm callous or unfeeling. I get hurt just like anybody. But when you grow big and you grow a big business and you're have a you're an influencer, you have an online presence, people are going to come after you. They're going to attack you.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes on a small scale, Gary this, Gary that, or worse yet, try to really ruin your business or take your business. Or
Yeah.
just things happen. But anymore now, when I see that happen, I was like, you know what? Go ahead, give it your best shot. Like,
Bring
and
it. You're like, bring it. I've already been
yeah,
through it all.
and it freaks people out because they're used to people cowering,
Yeah.
and I don't act from fear anymore. That's the big
Oh,
lesson was I never act from fear.
that's
Always act
beautiful.
from faith because I do believe, no matter how bad things are, they're going to get better.
I'm
And
with you.
you're going to wake up tomorrow, the sun's going to come up in the same eastern sky. You're going to have a brand new opportunity. Let today be today and let tomorrow roll out when it happens. But hey,
Oh, I
I
love
wonder if you don't
that.
mind. Yeah. I want to tap into your team a little bit. So tell us about your team. I want everybody that's in real estate, whether you're an investor or an agent, even if you're a consumer and you're trying to decide whether you buy or sell your house right now, because the market is kind of crazy, but I want you to understand how teams work and why it's really good to work with a team if you're a consumer and be on a team if you're an agent. Because in any case, let me stop talking. I won't let you do more talking. so,
Yeah.
so tell us about
No,
your team.
I love it.
Yeah, tell us
You
about the
know,
roles they play, things like that, you know?
for
Mhm.
me, I everything I know about real estate is because I had an incredible mentor. And I guess that was my first quote unquote team. It was
Mhm.
not technically a team, but I followed every move he made for a year. Open houses, going to
Mhm.
listing appointments, doing CMAs, and everything that I know I learned from him. So I believe that, I truly believe we are all better when we're together, when we're learning from each other, when we're cultivating community. And I've never had aspirations of growing a huge team. That's just not something that, maybe it's just because, my bandwidth is not there at the moment with fighting
Yeah,
illness. But I did know, about 4 years into getting sick, that I couldn't do this by myself. I was running myself into the ground, getting hospitalized repeatedly. And I said, okay, I need help. And luckily, I'm not great at hiring or interviewing. I find that I
mm,
tend to like look at the bright side of everything, and it doesn't
mm,
necessarily serve you in that space. So I was in the hospital and I asked Compass. I said, "Hey, can you please help me find an operations manager?" And they went
mhm.
and interviewed for me, and they found the most incredible um, executive assistant, operations manager, transaction
Yeah.
coordinator that anyone could ask for. So she truly runs the back end of my business so that
Mhm.
I'm able to be face to face. I'm able to do what where my skill set excels. And I think
Yeah.
understanding where you excel is so critical to success.
Right.
You look at our disc assessments, for instance, and we're complete opposites. She's,
Mhm.
very systematized, likes to be behind the scenes, making everything run properly. I'm the
Mhm.
complete opposite. I call myself a hurricane. I mean, I'm running around like a crazy woman and I do what she tells
Mm.
me. So finding someone, I think that was the most important hire and the most impactful hire that I ever made. I
Yeah.
then just brought on two agents that are producing themselves, but
Mhm.
that were our support for me. So if I need a
Mm.
listing agent, if I need a buyer's agent, I automatically have one of them that I can put on a deal with me and say, hey,
Yeah.
if I'm getting a plasma transfusions, for instance, for 4 days, I'm probably not going to be as available as I normally am. So that's
Right.
someone that can automatically answer the phone. And I think when you're building a team, understanding what role and being very, very clear about what the
Yeah.
expectations for that role are, it's critical. And being a one person sport and an only child as well, like the art of delegation was something I did not excel at. It was
Yeah.
and I continue to learn, but the importance of understanding your own, how you're using your own time. And I think
Yeah.
times, for anyone that hasn't done a time study, like take a week and every hour write out what it is that you did, and then turn
Yeah.
it into red time, things you shouldn't be doing and you should be delegating. Yellow time, things that maybe you could delegate, but if you have to, you can get them done. And green time, that's where you're making your highest dollar per hour. That's where you're thriving. You're using your skill set. For me, it's being with clients, it's building that relationship. And if you are hiring accordingly and being able to delegate based on that and finding that person whose skill set, it excels where yours lacks, then that person's not only going to be, saving your business, but they're also going to be empowered because they're doing what they are great at and what they excel
Yeah.
at. And oftentimes we get stuck thinking that everyone wants to be doing the same thing that we do. And that's not the case. There are people that
Right.
want to do the complete opposite. That is probably the person that you want to partner with for something like an operations manager or an
Yeah.
assistant. And then when you're hiring for a listing agent or a buyer's agent, it's going to be the complete opposite. Okay, you probably want someone that's pretty like-minded, that is good with
Right.
people, that's going to take care of your clients the way that you would. Um, so I think I got really lucky, but I did have, I fell on my face multiple times prior by trying to hire myself and just not hiring well. And it took a lot of
Yeah.
I had to just kind of put my tail between my legs and say, "Hey, I suck at this. Can, you know, can
Yeah.
can someone help me figure this out?" And
Yeah.
it was the best ask I ever made.
Yeah, you're that we call that the visionary implementer model. And you're the visionary and your operations manager is the implementer. And it
Yes,
turns out you and I are perfectly capable of speaking, communicating. But what's interesting about the implementers, they're usually some of the best people at communicating with us. They understand how we
exactly.
think without actually thinking like us. It's the craziest dynamic. But
It
when you
blows
have
my
that,
mind.
oh yeah, it's like they can read your mind and they know exactly what to say and to get us to
We
do whatever they want us to do.
After 4 years, we just look at each other and it's like, okay, she knows what I'm thinking. I know what she's thinking.
Yeah,
And I truly, I call her my boss. I'm like on because she keeps the wheels rolling. And I
yeah,
wouldn't be able to do my chaos would not function without her structure.
yeah. Hey, we're going to run out of time here real quick, but I do want to talk about the market there. So it's been a couple years since I've been back out to anywhere in Colorado, but kind of tell us what you're seeing now as far as like Denver, the city, but also the surrounding areas. I mean, you mentioned
Yeah.
Breckenridge, but Colorado Springs is not that far to the south. You got, I think Broomfield was another kind of like
Yeah.
west northwest of the city that was looked like it was about to grow. And I mean, tell us because I know people are still moving in there. I mean, I'm sure you see it like by the bucket loads from all over, you know? So,
It's interesting because you look at 35 years of data on the Denver real estate market, and we've
mhm,
had very, very healthy appreciation minus 2008 and 2009, where we had
mhm,
very slight dips. Well, over the last couple of years, as the market has slowed down, as interest rates have gone up, we've continually appreciated, and it's slowed down, but we still saw appreciation, maybe 5% annually. Well, to be completely honest, I would say the last 3 months, the market has come to the biggest halt that it has since
yeah.
2008 or 2009. We have an abundance of inventory. I believe we're up like 56% from last year, year over year.
Wow.
Um, we have very few buyer applications going in, so very few buyers are getting
Yeah.
pre-approved. Inventory, days on market is starting to hit 60s, 70s, which, you look at a normal market and that doesn't seem crazy, but when you're used to a market that properties sell in, anywhere from 2 to 10 days, pretty normally for the last
Correct.
as long as I've sold real estate, it is it's by far the most challenging market I've ever worked in. And what I think
Yeah.
it's teaching me personally is the importance of getting creative and saying,
Mhm.
okay, my norm of how I'm going to approach business is not going to cut it right now. So how can I make my business and my client experience that much better that
Yeah.
the people that do have to move, because there are always people that have to move, the people
Yeah.
that are going to come to me. Where we are seeing a pretty big uptick in business is the ultra luxury market. So
Really?
properties,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we're talking 5 million to 40 million. So
Yeah.
places like Aspen, Beaver
Hmm.
Creek are doing really well, and it's cash buyers looking to just plant their money into something that they know is going to appreciate. And although it doesn't sound like spending $40 million on a property is going to appreciate. If you're in Aspen, if in a very small valley of very, very affluent humans that own ridiculous real estate, you're darn right that $40 million in property is going to appreciate. And it's hard to even fathom. But that
Yeah.
is honestly where we're seeing the most business being done right now is in the ultra luxury market. So
Yeah.
definitely wish I was selling $40 million houses in Aspen, but we all start somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Breckenridge will have to do for now, right?
Exactly. Even
Yeah.
Breckenridge growing up, I never thought I'd see $8, $10 million houses, and
I know. Yeah.
it's happening.
Well, the first time I was at Vail, I was with a client of mine and I helped him flip a 15-unit building. And he
Oh,
actually took my brother and I skiing with him out there for a week, totally paid. We had to pay for our tickets, but he put us up and everything. And I
that's
never
awesome.
forget at the village at the bottom of at the the main village where all the
Mhm.
slopes come together. Around 4 o'clock, the chefs were coming out with their chef hats and silver platters on hot chocolate chip cookies and glasses of champagne. I was like, this is the way to wrap up a day of skiing, man. And you don't get
Talk
that on the
about
East Coast. You don't get anything like that.
Well, and you talk about, how you're giving your client an experience. Like
Yeah,
I just listened to the writer of Unreasonable Hospitality, and he owns the number one restaurant in the world in New York City, and it talks about it's going that extra mile. Like how are you giving
yeah,
your client the best experience possible? Because you're never,
yeah,
you're never gonna forget that memory. Like that is something that is now embedded in you forever. So it's taking things
yeah.
like that and implementing them into how you build relationship and how you make people feel.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, let's do one more question. I know we're going way over here, but
Yeah,
how is is the investor market active there right now? Or investors coming in, scooping up the okay.
definitely.
What kind of properties are you thinking? I know there's always the cash flow play, and of course there's the appreciation play. Seems to me like the appreciation play might be better right now. I mean, what are
Yes.
you don't I'm not nobody's going to hold you to this. It's not a test. We're just trying to
I
get a
like
feel.
tests.
Yeah, yeah.
So Denver and most of Colorado, I'd say Denver specifically, you're not going to use the typical cap rate model. We
Mhm,
just don't have you're not going to get a 7% cap rate. But what you are going to be getting is, our average appreciation it runs around 10 to 11% annually. So
mhm,
what I'm seeing is, obviously single family is generally what appreciates the best. And
mhm,
there has not been an opportunity, even off market, it got extremely tight over the last, 5 years to find
mhm,
opportunities that in single family homes. And what I'm
mhm,
seeing is that there are desperate sellers. There are properties that are just sitting, and it's creating incredible opportunities if they're in the right locations. And luckily we
mhm,
do have, a plethora of really great areas because they all have their own little niche of why they're special. So I'm seeing this market right now for investors as one of the best opportunities possible
yeah,
because you can finally come in, get a property way under ask. Hopefully if you are borrowing with it, you could ask for a seller concession to buy down the interest rate temporarily while you're
yeah,
flipping it or doing work on it. Um, that's something that didn't exist if we had this conversation 3 years ago. So
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I think the investors I know that are savvy are jumping on every opportunity that they can right now because, you know, the second interest rates start going down, that's not going to be the case anymore.
yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, I really appreciate this. And I
Thank
think I speak for a
you.
lot of people. Athena, you're welcome. I think I speak for a lot of people when I say big heartfelt thank you. And for everybody listening, please leave a review. Man, you got some gold nuggets today, and it's been probably one of my most fun podcasts. Over was for you two listening,
Yeah.
and we look forward to the next episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow Podcast. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. God bless you and all your loved ones, and have an awesome day.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Massive Passive Cash Flow. Be sure to go to realestatewithgarywilson.com to join our community and start building wealth today.